I'm Julie Zenner along with Pat Kelly, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
We're all about Navy Week tonight. We'll talk with former crew members of the USS Duluth.
And later in the show, we'll lift off on a World War II era C-47, just part of this weekend's big air show in Duluth.
And we'll have the week's business news and look back at Duluth's Aviation Expo 89.
By air, land, and sea, Almanac North is next. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Pat Kelly is in this week for Denny. And Pat, it's good to have you here.
It's nice to be here. There's so much going on this weekend in Duluth. A few low-tech items like the Dragon Boat Festival or the Lakehead Harvest Reunion up in Esco. But boy, high-tech well represented too with the Air and Aviation Expo and of course Navy Week.
And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. The Navy has come ashore this week, so let's get right into it.
Absolutely, Julie. Thanks. The Twin Ports has quite a nautical tradition as one of the world's busiest freshwater harbors, so bringing Navy Week to a port city like Duluth makes sense on many levels. Crew members from the USS Minnesota, one of the Navy's newest nuclear subs, have been in town all week. And today on the Lakewalk, former crew members of the USS Duluth were present for the dedication of the ship's anchor along the Lakewalk. So we thought it only appropriate to bring the Navy into the studio tonight. Joining us is Don Rowe, president of the USS Duluth Crewmembers Association. Laurence Grimes served as the Duluth's captain from 1976 to 1978. And Captain Paul Cruz led the Duluth some 20 years later from 1997 to 1999. Welcome to Duluth. Thanks to all of you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about how this ceremony has been, how this week has been for you in Duluth with the dedication.
It's been amazing and absolutely surreal. You know, getting a piece of the ship and getting this monument built, and the anchor just arrived here in Duluth just a few weeks ago, and we had to scramble to get the monument base constructed. We literally attached the bronze plaques to the face of the monument 2 days ago. Dodging the rain in between the clouds, so we got everything done just in time for the ceremony.
Captain Grimes, why is this an appropriate resting place for the anchor from the USS Duluth?
The ship was named after the city, and that's special. Not many cities get ships names after them. As you probably know, the city of Duluth, there were two ships. One was a light cruiser in World War II, and my ship and Paul's ship was the other one, an LPD. So it's quite an honor, first of all, to be here to celebrate this special occasion. And Don, and his wonderful job of getting the anchor out of the ship. Our ship was demolished, intentionally, and taken apart, but we were able to get the anchor. And the anchor belongs in the city because it's your ship.
Where has the anchor been since the ship was demolished?
Well, the ship was taken apart in a town called Brownsville, Texas, which is it's called Esco Marine, and that's what they do. And they're tearing apart a lot of our old oil-burning carriers as well. And of course, all of our carriers in the Navy today are nuclear powered. And there are two more coming. One, the Gerald Ford, is being built, and if Congress approves it, the John F. Kennedy #2 will be built. So it's all nuclear power carriers now. So all of the old oil burners, we call them, are being torn apart.
Still quite a proud history for the Duluth. Captain Cruz, from Vietnam to the Indian Ocean tsunami, decades of service. What kind of missions did the Duluth perform?
Well, you mentioned the humanitarian service missions, which the Navy has done a lot most recently. A lot of trips to the Persian Gulf, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom. I deployed with the sailors and the Marines of Duluth in summer of '98, and we had a contingent of Marines, SEALs, and primarily spent the time doing maritime interdiction operations.
What sort of duty would they have performed, say, during the Exxon Valdez oil spill?
I wasn't on board the ship during that time frame, but one of the things the ship is capable of doing is acting as a mothership. It is a large platform, lots of space. The well deck is just huge, and that serves as almost like a large warehouse, which is multi-purpose. The LPD has had everything in there from amphibious assault vehicles to landing craft. They occasionally put marine mammals in there when they're doing a mine warfare mission, and they carry all sorts of freight. So if you have a mission where you have to haul first aid, humanitarian materials, it's a perfect vessel for doing that. You just roll it right in, go up alongside a pier, put a ramp down, and you just haul. You can haul flatbeds in there, semis.
Wow.
Just gripe them down, and you're ready to go.
It sounds like you have a pretty active crew members association. Is it unusual for people who have served on a vessel to stay this connected to each other and to the history of the vessel beyond your service?
It's not unusual for ships to have crew members associations, but typically they tend to exist for the sole purpose of having occasional reunions. Our ship's motto, Fortiter in Re, which is Latin for bold in action, is something that we always embraced when we were active duty aboard the ship, and we've kind of continued that tradition afterwards. So to just have reunions isn't quite enough for us. So we have much bigger goals and ambitions. The anchor was something that was kind of a surprise part of that. We were engaged in conference calls at the time to form and establish a museum here in Duluth for the USS Duluth. And suddenly we became aware that the anchor was available, and we shifted gears over to acquiring the anchor and building the monument. So now that we have that task completed, we're now going to focus back on the creation of the museum. So yes, it's kind of unusual for crew members associations to engage in those kinds of ambitious activities, but for us it's what we do. So
talk about the dedication ceremony today, Captain, and we have some video of it, and what it was like being there for you.
It was just absolutely wonderful to look at that monument, and I was so impressed with the many contractors here in the city of Duluth who contributed, Don, what was it, something like $150,000 worth, or maybe more.
And there were about 25 companies, give or take a couple. I think we're still adding companies on because there's a couple of tasks to be finished, but about 25 companies that contributed absolutely every part of this. And there was not one penny spent to build this monument.
And I think that's incredible for a city to come up with that type of money and desire to help us build it. Not only they to sit there and see that beautiful monument that we had to get ready for this occasion today on time was just spectacular. And then the young men who that participated in there with the color guard and the whole, it's just, as a Navy guy, you never forget that because you're part of that patriotism that you see. And it was absolutely spectacular to me. And it brings back fond memories of my crew, that the captain sits up in his chair, but his 400 and some odd people make it work. And to see them up there and in association just makes me feel awfully good.
Captain Cruz, did you have similar emotions today during the dedication?
I certainly did. It's you know, the amount of effort that went into making this event happen is unbelievable. I'm a kind of a latecomer. I did not make the first reunion, and Don and Captain Grimes reached out and got in contact with me. So after I found out the organization was in place, I was gung-ho and ready to help participate. I missed out on the commissioning, so this is taking the place of missing out on commissioning, and to me it was a good place to be. It's a good opportunity to touch base, reconnect with the sailors and some of the Marines that were part of Duluth's history.
Captain Cruz, do you have a specific special memory of your duty on board?
Well, the thing that really, well, a couple of things. One, we were coming back in December of 98. It was the 33rd birthday celebration for the ship, and it was a happy time. We were coming back from the Persian Gulf. We coming straight back. Had not had any Liberty ports in or out because of the mission, and we were talking about the ship. And one of the things, there's a lot of discussion about the ship, but to me, there was a lot of the spirit comes from the men, the sailors and the Marines. So that was the big thing I was talking to them about, that the ship is only as good as the sailors and the Marines, and the energy and the spirit that they put into it. And, you know, about a week later, the thing that I remember is getting back from deployment successfully, bringing them back, all the sailors and Marines. That was a big thing to me, is being able to say that we went out, we did our mission, and everybody came back safely.
Were there Marines often on board the ship,
Yes.
along with the crew?
Yes, from the day after, well, actually the day you get underway in San Diego, you just go up the coast to Camp Pendleton and you start loading your Marines. And some of them are already on board, but primarily you load all the amphibious assault vehicles and the landing craft that same day, and usually you complete that loadout the first day. Then you turn west and start heading west.
After this segment, we're going to have a little video that shows some of the history of the ship, and people can access this video right from the monument, I understand.
That's correct. There's something called a QR code. It's a little square thing that looks sort of like a barcode.
We saw it in the video.
Okay. If you scan that with your smartphone or your tablet, it takes you to a video that gives you a little bit more of the history, a little more understanding of the ship and its mission. One of the big challenges that we were faced with in something like this is, how do you tell the story in 2 bronze plaques? It's nearly impossible. So that's what we came up with, is it's a way to express to people who will be passing by this monument, not only now, but 50 years from now, however long from now, to get a little bit understanding of the story of the ship and why is this anchor here, etc.
Captain Grimes, do you have a particular memory of your duty on board the ship?
I really do. For example, all my experience is in aviation, but when I got aboard the ship, I'm a graduate of the Naval Academy, 1955, a long time ago, so I was trained in some way in ship handling, but we're coming aboard a big ship that's almost 600 feet long was quite an experience for me. And what I learned so many things from the surface officers, and the bridge team was spectacular to me. And they were just like part of my family. And I wish I could do it all again. It was quite a nice feeling. So, you know, the surface officers call us flyers Airedales, which we are. And I was honored to be selected to command a amphibious ship. So I'll always remember that.
Of course, the timing of the dedication this week coincides with Navy Week here in Duluth. Tell us about that and how important it is for the Navy to kind of have that FaceTime with people in a community.
It's incredibly important, and in fact, we selected the date of the dedication long before we had even acquired the anchor physically. And I have very fond memories of John Werner, who's the gentleman who acted as project manager to actually get it built, panicking because we had scheduled entertainment, the Navy band and some other of the events for the ceremony, while the anchor was still in the scrapyard down in Brownsville, and we hadn't put a shovel in the ground yet, and many other things. But we wanted to shoot for that date during Navy Week because of the fact that it's Navy Week and there was a focus on the Navy and Navy-related events, and of course the air show is this weekend. So it seemed like it wouldn't make sense to schedule it for any time other than during Navy Week. So we went ahead and scheduled it, and somehow we managed to get it complete in time.
You guys did very well. Petty Officer Rowe, Captain Grimes, Captain Cruz, you handled this land duty really well. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for coming in.
Let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
They buzzed through the air like insects on fire, leaving trails of smoke as they etched precision turns and loops in the sky. The audience loved them, but the Vanguard flying team was just the beginning of Aviation Expo 89. Of course, there was no mistaking the stars of the show, the U.S. Navy Blue Angels.
Delta, turn left next intersection, takes it around.
They're good. They're surprising, they sneak up on you and stuff.
Around 30,000 people attended today's expo, many holding tickets to yesterday's rained-out performance.
We came up yesterday from Minneapolis. We got rained out, so we came back again today. We didn't want to miss it.
Was it worth making 2 trips?
Oh yeah, definitely worth it. We really had a good time.
We sure had fun up there today. What's your name? Hi, Amanda. I'm Doug.
At Aviation Expo 89 with photographer Chris Berg, Julie Zenner, KDLH News.
If you visit the newly dedicated anchor of the USS Duluth on the Lakewalk, you'll be impressed by its massive size. But even more impressive is the history of service of the vessel named in honor of Duluth. A video of that history has been prepared for anyone who wants to learn more about the decommissioned ship known as an amphibious transport dock. People with smartphones can view the video when they visit the anchor. Let's take a look.
The USS Duluth was an Austin-class amphibious transport dock, or LPD, and was the 6th in her class. She was named after the city of Duluth, Minnesota, which itself bore the name of Sir Daniel Greysolon Duluth, the explorer who raised the French flag at the westernmost point of Lake Superior in 1679. LPDs were named after cities themselves named for explorers and developers of America. She is the second Navy ship to bear the name. The first USS Duluth was a light cruiser commissioned on September 18, 1944, and decommissioned on June 24, 1949. The USS Duluth was built at the New York Naval Shipyard in Brooklyn, New York. Her keel was laid on December 18, 1963, and she was launched on August 14, 1965. She was christened by Mrs. C. Bruce Solomonson, the daughter of Vice President Hubert H. Humphrey. She was commissioned on December 18, 1965, and she was decommissioned on October 28, 2005. LPDs are used to transport and land U.S. Marines, their equipment and supplies, and otherwise support amphibious operations using various waterborne amphibious landing watercraft and numerous types of helicopters and vertical takeoff and landing V-22 Ospreys and AV-8 Harrier jets. The LPD's capability to house, feed, and provide medical care for up to 1,000 people make the ship uniquely capable of supporting both amphibious and humanitarian operations. The ship's insignia features a red and blue shield symbolizing the Navy and Marine Corps teams of which the Duluth was a part. The single large star overhead represents the North Star, the symbol of the state of Minnesota. The 5-star diagonal band replicates the center of the Great Seal of the city of Duluth, Minnesota, and the large 6 is the hull number of the ship. The motto is a Latin expression translated as bold in action. Because of the incredible versatility of the well deck, which allows for watercraft to directly enter the ship when partially submerged and still operate various aircraft from its flight deck, the USS Duluth was capable of performing a wide variety of missions. The entire back of the ship is a large swinging door called the stern gate. The stern gate would swing down to form a ramp, and the ship would partially submerge into the water, allowing watercraft to enter and exit with personnel. The USS Duluth has performed a number of humanitarian missions, including participating in the evacuation of Saigon, where the Duluth carried over 2,000 refugees to safety, and the cleanup of the Exxon Valdez oil spill. To read more stories or find out more history about the USS Duluth, please visit their website at www.ussduluth.org.
It's time for the week's business headlines from Business North. A West Range development group wants to open a first-floor restaurant and brew pub at the former Central School in Grand Rapids. The Grand Rapids Economic Development Authority entered into a pre-development agreement with North Rock Development. Initially, the plan is to establish a restaurant, which later might expand to include beer brewing. City planners have long hoped to attract a restaurant to the site, hoping it would drive more traffic into the retail building.
Meanwhile, a new Duluth restaurant, Tavern on the Hill, will open Monday near the UMD campus. It will use fresh, locally sourced foods and also offer an outdoor patio, online ordering, and curbside delivery. The eatery was developed by the same folks who own area Blackwoods restaurants. The new facility, which is within the Bluestone Commercial Residential Development, will employ about 100 workers, 30 of them full-time.
At a town hall meeting in Ashland last week, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson was told the U.S. Forest Service is not doing enough to fully use the area's timber resources. Bayfield Economic Development Corporation Director Scotty Sandstrom told Johnson that harvesting has been limited by the Forest Service in recent years. Johnson suggested that if more harvesting were allowed, the revenue could pay for fire suppression efforts in the western United States, while also bolstering the lumber supply. For more business and economic news, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment about our show, pick up your telephone, dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message, or send your comments in an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. You can also visit the WDSE website for the latest program information, news about the station, and to see previews and clips of your favorite PBS shows. And Pat, thanks again for filling in this week for Denny. It's always great to have you here.
It was a pleasure to be back, especially during this week with these fine gentlemen.
Yeah, it was a fun show, lots going on this week. And finally, tonight we've got some video of one of the planes featured in this weekend's big air show at Duluth International Airport. The historic C-47 aircraft, known as Whiskey 7, participated in the D-Day invasion in Normandy, France, 70 years ago. On June 6, 1944, she led the second wave of the airborne invasion that marked the beginning of the end of World War II. On board our flight Thursday with Whiskey 7 was World War II Army paratrooper John Hinchless from Wisconsin. John was with the 82nd Airborne 507th Division on that fateful day. John had 2 years of combat service during World War II and made 30 jumps from a C-47 during the war, which is a lot. Counting this flight, John has made 32 flights total in a C-47, but this is only the second time he has landed with the plane. The C-47, the Navy Blue Angels, and many other stunt and display planes will be featured Saturday and Sunday at the 2014 Duluth Air and Aviation Expo. And there are a lot of people hoping the weather holds up. For Pat Kelly and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Enjoy the air show, everyone, and have a great weekend.